ta-da, have finished the neckband. 2, 3. I don't think I did full 7 rounds on mine, but it's only to show you, wasn't it? So it's fine. I've got to say, it's a tiny version of the real thing, and I love it so much. I'm going to send it to Amanda to see if Betty Boo can wear it in these cold days. Obviously yours is going to be beautiful and much bigger than this. I've really loved making this, and I can't wait to make the real thing, actually. It might be my Christmas knitting project, we just don't know. Anyway, so we've got a couple of things left to do, and then we are done. And the first thing is we've got to sew up this neck and shoulder, and I'm gonna might have enough there. I'll give that a go. I'm gonna attempt the same as before. So if you remember when we sewed the first shoulder, if when you cast off your neck, it might be too late now, but if when you cast off your neck you leave a nice long what's the word, end, you can use that for sewing up, because it's handy because it's already attached, and all you've got to do is sort of move it into the right kind of position so that the edges are together, and then you can go off and use this, no problem. Right, so to start with, I'm going to be doing a mattress stitch, vertical mattress stitch. Sounds like some sort of fabulous gymnastic thing, doesn't it? It's not. So my yarn is coming from the left here, and what I'm going to do is bring it up from the back to the front on the right. So now it's coming through the front on the right. Now, do you remember the tip? The tip is you've got to put your needle back where your yarn came out. So I'm just going to put mine through here because it hasn't come out anywhere yet. But it's coming back over to the left side and coming through, and it's coming up and under 1 bar. Can you see the bar? The stitch bar to the left of the first line of stitches. And I'm just going to pull that through. And then I'm coming back to the right, and I'm going in where the yarn came out, and I'm coming up and under 1 bar. I'm not going to pull it tight yet. I'm just going to leave it loose and pull it tight at the end. Come back over where the yarn came out, up and under 1 bar. And it sort of looks like there's something flying around in here. I don't know what it is. It sort of looks like the laces on a shoe. And again, the real trick is just that, putting your needle in where the yarn came out. Honestly, it makes everything really easy peasy, really. I am shortly going to get to the end of where I can do vertical sewing up. So I'll make this the last one. I'll come up and under the last one like so. And I will come up and under the last one on this side. So where I am at now is, am I? Yes, pretty much at the end of the rib section. So if I give that a little pull, it magically closes. It's hard for you to see on camera, but when you're doing it in real life, if you haven't done mattress stitch before, you will be amazed at how invisible it actually is. It sort of just looks like you've carried on with the ribbing there. So I'm happy with that. So now I've got this bizarre, great big chunky step. You will not have this on yours. So I'm just going to have to try and do the best I can on mine. But the point being, whoops, I've done that wrong. The point being, bring the edges together of the work and do that sort of mattress stitch thing where you come in where you go in where you've come out. That's what you need to be doing to sew it up. Now, please remember that your pieces will be a much better fit together, because I've just cobbled this together, haven't I? You're not going to have a great big step like that to have to contend with, thankfully. So this isn't going to go together super neatly, but I'll do my best. I'll just sew it up. I'll come back to you in a sec. Don't forget, when we're going back to sort of this horizontal, we're coming behind 1 stitch. Rather than going up the 1 bar, we're just coming behind 1 stitch, and that will continue that sort of invisible weaving scenario. And that's what I'm going to do. Just to the edge of the shoulder. All right, yours is going to be a lot longer, so you're going to need to allow more yarn, obviously. So if you do decide to use that cast off edge, make sure you leave a good old long thread at the end. Obviously it's not a problem, you can always add more in, but it's nice if half the job's done for you, isn't it? Right, I'm right at the corner now. I'll just secure that last little bit. I've got very little thread left, but don't worry, I'll just pass that through on the back. Enough just to sort of secure it there. It's not as much as I'd like, but there we go. So let's have a look. Excuse me. So, oh gosh, I even love this. I do like a finished neck. Right, so you can see both our shoulders are fully attached, and I think you'll agree that is some, you know, practically invisible seaming there. You can see the front of the neck comes down lower than the back, so that's going to make that nice and easy to put on yours, where it's the right size. And the last thing we've got to do is sew the sides up. This is where our little markers come into play. So all you're going to do is you're going to make sure that they line up, and you're going to sew from the bottom hem up to those markers and not beyond. Now I haven't left enough, I don't think, so I'm going to cut some yarn and do that. And we'll just have another whistle stop look at sort of mattress stitch. Right, I've just got a long piece of thread here, and what I'm going to do is attach it to the left side of my piece. So I'm going to seam those two together. It's a little bit awkward, but it'll be easy once we get going. And it's awkward for me just because I've got to show you it, but obviously it won't be awkward for you at all. So I'm just going to make sure those two markers line up, and I will sew up this bottom edge. So I'm going to attach the yarn right in the corner on the back or on the inside of the piece to my left. Just as you would any sort of bit of sewing thread, really. I'm going to sew that end over so it is caught in and we don't need to do anything with it. Okay, so it's nice and secure now. And I'm going to try to work on that very edge stitch. Okay, it can be difficult to see, but do your best. It's going to be, we want to have our needle on this side, just on the inside of that very first stitch. Okay, so I'm bringing it up from the back to the front of that very first stitch. Okay, so our pieces are going to be sort of sat side by side, and I'm going over to the right hand piece as I'm looking at it, and again I'm trying to work on that very edge, just on the inside of that very edge stitch. So with my needle I'm going to go in just to the right of that bottom stitch, and I'm going to bring it up and under 1 bar. Now you can do 2 bars if you like, as long as you're even and you're doing the same on both sides, it won't matter. But I've got a small piece here, so I'm just going to do one bar to start with. Okay, so they're sort of loosely joined at this point. So our normal rule applies. I'm going back in where the yarn came out, and I'm going to come up and under 1 bar. It's quite a sort of solid and robust stitch because we've got that knit purl going on up there. It gives it a good solid edging. Going back in on the right where my yarn has come out, and up and under 1 bar. So if I go up and under 1 bar on both sides, I will keep my joining even. Okay, because I know I'm only travelling up 1 stitch at a time on both sides. If I go more than that, it can be a little uneven, but don't worry if that happens, and it does happen because it's not always easy to see where those stitches fall. Just even it up, so you'll soon see, oh, you know, I've gone a little bit too far on the right hand side or on the left hand side. Just take a couple more bars on the other side to even it up, so it's not really an issue. So I've done a few, you can see there, and I'm just going to pull it closed. Okay, and once it's, I mean, it is practically invisible. There is a real joy to doing this stitch. It's such a lovely way to, if you've got a seam project, and you know, it's not everybody's favourite thing. It's not my favourite thing, because it can, if you know, if you're not careful, you can go from having some very beautiful knitted fabric looking like a lump, you know, turning it into a lumpy old jumper. So it does take practice, and it does take sort of a bit of patience, and both of those things I'm poor at, really. But it's worth taking the time on it to give the nice finish for something you spent, you know, you'll always have spent a long time making things, because knitting, well, certainly for me, it's not a fast, it's not a quick fix, is it? Okay, so that's all I'm going to do all the way up. So I'm going to carry on doing this. You can see the effect. It is basically, I pull it, if I zip it up like that and show you, I mean, you just cannot see that join. Okay, that's what we're aiming for, and we're going to do that on both sides up to the marker. So if I get to the marker, and we'll look at sort of fastening off. Right, I'm at those markers now, pretty much. I'm going to bring my needle up to the stitch where I've got it marked on both sides, and zip up that last bit. That's done. And just snip out those markers carefully, and they will disappear. And I'll just show you what I'm going to do is fasten off the yarn on the inside. Now, before I do that, what you will see is that just looks like that pattern continues. The continuation of the pattern through that side seam is fabulous. Really, really great. So take your time to work that side seam nicely. So if I turn that through to the other side, you can see again that lovely ridge, which is the outermost stitch on each edge has just come together to form that little seam inside. That's how you can get in that ridge. So I'm going to bring my needle through from the front to the back, because all the hard work is done, all the closing of that seam is done, and it's done securely. So all I need to do now is just fasten off this yarn by, you know, just putting a few stitches through, really, just to secure it. Then I can fasten it off. That'll do for me. Fasten it off and turn it back through. And there we go. Okay. That's not bad at all, is it? It needs obviously a bit of a block, but it is straight and even, and I think, you know, pretty well invisible. So I'm really pleased with that. I've just got to do this other side, and then we'll have a quick chat about finishing the project with some blocking.